patchy notes to talk about.
Quite a few.
Balance updates, hero
So
improvements.
yeah, let's start off with
Let's get started, yeah.
hero improvements. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that makes sense for me. All right. So
Who's getting what?
we're gonna start with
For,
Lawbringer,
front
right?
dodge
So,
shove is
for
500,
Lawbringer,
down
we've
from 7.
adjusted the speed of his
Side
dodge
dodge shove
shove
is
right now, right? So front
533, down from
front dodge
7.
shove is now 500 ms. It used to be
Recovery
700.
from front
The
side
side one
shoves
is
are now 700.
553,
Up from
533 rather,
400.
down from 700. And we've also updated the recovery for them to be 700 instead of 4. Basically, at the speed they were at, they weren't really functional as openers or dodge attacks. So by doing this, we're really hoping to get Lawbringer a bit more opening ability. But to compensate, so the idea we had before is that they were safe when they were dodged or whatever. They were like really, really difficult to punish, but they were really easy to avoid. So now we're trying to do the opposite, like we do with every other hero, which is they're harder to avoid, but they're easier to punish. So that's kind of what we're going with Lawbringer for this.
I think that's well.
I'd rather have it the other way around, to be
Players
fair.
ask for a lot.
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah. So it should really help Lawbringer there. All right,
Yeah.
Nusha, right?
Nusha.
Echo Strike is now unblockable.
Echo Strike is now unblockable.
Deals
Now,
20 damage.
if you don't really know Nusha that much, I'm sure chat right now. is freaking out a little
I'm
bit.
pretty sure I know
Echo
her
Strike is her
well
defense
enough.
attack, right? So Echo Strike is now unblockable, which means that it will no longer be auto block if you don't change your stance or whatever you do when you perform it.
Oh, that's
So
a
it'll
deflect?
always land, which is awesome. It's a really good quality of
Right.
life change for Nusha. And it also deals 20 damage. It used to do like a really, really high amount of damage because you had to kind of like do some shenanigans to make it work. With this, at least, it'll always land 20 damage is in line with what we have with a lot of deflect.
Yeah, it
attacks.
was like
So they should
40
work quite
damage
well.
for the
It's way
deflect,
better.
right?
So we should get there quite well. We've also increased. We also made the crescent jab and crescent step, which are front dodge and side dodge lights. They're both enhanced. Again, like we want to give Nusha a little bit an easier time to get into her chains, get into opponents. If something is blocked from extending your front dodge into light or whatever, then you have a bit more chance of getting into somebody's face.
Doing a
and being
front
able to defeat
dodge.
them. And we've also adjusted
Plus
the time
300
at which
MS
crescent
static.
jab, which is the front version.
Okay.
To perform during the front dodge, right? So it used to be at 300 MS static. Now it's fun. It's 100 to 400, so you can do it earlier.
Updated weapon
gives you more
trajectories.
That works really,
I can't
really well.
fucking say
And
that
on top
word.
of that, we've also updated all of her weapon trajectories for side heavy
Trajectories.
attacks.
Thank you,
To
JC.
match her weapons visuals a little bit better, and to be fair, they're also a little bit bigger than her weapons to give her better anti-gank. One of the problems that Nusha has on top of being a reflex guard hero
Anti-gank.
is that it's kind of hard to defend yourself when you get a bunch of people jumping onto you.
Yeah.
So now you should be able to do her side heavies and get some people off of you at least a little bit more. So that should help there
Good.
also a little bit. And
Good.
Get her like a little bit higher up. Like she's not gonna be like the end all be all character, but at least those are really, really nice quality of life changes here for us.
Yeah, I'm so pumped because I've seen the comment of like give Nusha an unblockable for literally years now. So it's so good to see it
Yeah.
actually happening.
I'm super happy.
But
about
it being the deflect
All right,
is...
now
Didn't forget her.
Yeah. Peacekeeper, right?
Side
So for Peacekeeper,
strike.
we focused a bit on making her dodge
400
attacks,
recovery
side attacks that
on
can have-
miss.
Be a
Okay.
bit safer, right? So side step strike, which is a side dodge heavy, used to have like 700 MS of recovery on miss. A lot of people were able to kind of like side dodge into guard break on reaction, which was kind of bad. So we've really, really lowered the recovery of that attack by quite a bit on miss and on block, or not in terms of block and on hit, to make sure that the move is not to use in a lot of situations. And as well, the riposting stab, which is a deflect attack, now there's a medium hit reaction instead of a light. So you get better from advantage afterwards. If you do nothing, you're from advantage. If you want to go into chains or whatever, you get better mix up afterwards. And it also has a lower recovery on hits, now 400 MS. So it used to be longer. Again, here we're trying to give Peacekeepers attacks, like a lot of her dodge stuff and the deflect stuff, to be a bit safer, be more usable, and have like a bit more utility in a lot of in different situations.
PK mains rejoice.
Oh yeah. All right, now Raider nerfs. So Raider is a character that's still a bit overperforming, and we wanted to make sure that the hero was toned down a little bit, not massively, but enough that you kind of feel it a little bit, and so the hero is going to be less frustrating. So first off, the stamina pool is now 120, which is like the standard stamina pool for most heroes. It used to be at 130, and on top of having a lot of soft feints, Raider has like feels like he never runs out of stamina. So at 120, it's gonna help that. It's gonna alleviate that a little bit. It's not like he still is really stamina efficient, but it's not. I have infinite stamina now, so that should make a bit difference. And then we've nerfed a lot of his attacks
Top
for
chain
the damage down a little bit.
chain
right?
top heavy,
Top
chain
heavy now
side
deals 28, chain
heavy.
side heavy now deals 26. So they used to deal 30 and 27. Mostly because the finishers now deal 30 and 28, and the tone attack and chains also deals 28. So the idea here is that we want to cap damage for those finishers at 30, like we've been doing quite often. And so we wanted to have Raiders damage to be a little bit more in line with what other heroes have, on top of the hero having like really huge trajectories, hitting a bunch of different people, getting to a lot of stuff. So that should really help quite a bit in the situation there and be less frustrating to fight against Raiders. That should be pretty good for everybody involved.
Yeah, just get him back down into like, a decent tier.
Yeah. I mean,
into A tier.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's really just a case of how do we make the hero less frustrating to fight against without annihilating him, right? So that's kind of like the big deal.
Yeah,
Pirate.
like a 4 raider.
Yeah.
24 walk the plank, no feats.
Right.
30
Okay,
revenge.
So we're doing
Instead
one
of
last round
7,
for now
7,
based on
yeah.
pirate nerfs. So walk the
12
plank now
times
deals
down
24
for
damage
14.
instead of 27. Again, it's to lower the damage output of walk the plank. You get a guaranteed 5 damage afterwards. All those dodge cancels, all that sort of stuff. So we wanted to make sure that the move is still good, it's still usable.
Excuse me.
But at the same time, it doesn't do like way too much damage. But we've also adjusted how much revenge it feeds to 30. So it's as if it dealt 30 damage, but it deals 24 in terms of revenge only. So again, we want to make sure the ganks with pirates are
Is
a
that
little bit
the
less
stab
effective.
and
That's
gunshot?
A big way to have that, to crank it
Walk
up
the
a little
plank?
bit, just enough that well.
I don't
it
know
still
pirates
works,
too
they're still
much,
good, but
honestly.
It's gonna be much more difficult to do repeated ganks, repeated walk the planks back and back and back to go
Good.
to kill somebody, to go from 100 to 0 really efficient.
Good.
We've also lowered the damage of Cavalier Dance to 12. That's front dodge heavy. It used to deal 14. Again, a lot of these things are we're tweaking the damage here to make sure that Pirate has different choices and different options, and some of them have drawbacks and some of them have benefits, right? So when we designed Pirate, a lot of what we were going for was have her have a lot of different options at any point in her kit. That's why there's a dodge cancels. You can dodge into side heavies, front heavies. You can go to walk the plank. A lot of different things. And because those options were quite strong, we're doing a bit too much damage. It kind of made the choice less impactful, right? So now if you want to go into a front dodge heavy and then get the armor, get the extra damage, get the flow going, well, you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit more damage. If you're going to walk the plank, yeah, it deals more damage. It deals much more damage than going to Cavalier Dance, but there's those trade-offs here that we really want to focus and have an emphasis on player choice and expression, and going, well, I play Pirate this way, you play Pirate that way, and it's always a little bit different. So that's the part of that nerf. And then the next one is a nerf, but it's also more of a bug fix, which is chaining timings from every single attack that leads to pistol blast on miss, right? So only when you miss with your attack, the chaining timings are 300 ms up from 200. And that is because we had an issue that if your attack trajectory would hit an opponent after your miss timing on somebody, or even after you hit your main target, or if something happened and you hit an off target afterwards, you could target swap to them and then do a pistol blast, and that pistol blast would be guaranteed because the chaining timing was very, really short. I've seen a lot of people talk about this on Reddit.
Yeah.
We've had discussions with pro players there. So with that being at 300 instead of 200, should really eliminate those situations and make sure that character is a lot more fair to fight against and get into that better feeling.
It would never be fair to fight her.
Some players find her oppressing and difficult to fight against. So hopefully these changes will really help getting that level down a little bit and make the character still feel good, but not feel as bad to play against sometimes.
But JC, I was so enjoying glitch swapping, shooting everyone in the face.
Right?
Why would you take this away from me?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
No, it's a good change. It needed
Warlord, uninterruptible
Alright, so we're
stance
gonna
on
do
heavy
other
finishers.
improvements that are a
Now
bit more
starts at 100.
So Warlord, uninterruptible stance. That's armor for people who don't know yet. On Warlord's heavy finishers, now it starts at 100 ms. It used to be 300. So at 100, it'll help the hero be a little bit better in group fights. and be able to use those heavy finishers a bit more efficiently. We've also done another change to Centurion. So now there's
Why?
things, right?
Why do
every
they
single
bring
move
that back?
that could chain to jab on hit or block can also now chain to jab on miss. So you can do now jab, light rather, and if opponent dodges it, you can go to jab afterwards. So that makes a bit of a difference here. Like it gives Centurion better ways to go into the character's mix-ups and get into a bunch of different things there. So that's really good. And we've also updated some other things to get that jab and the punch to really feel better and have track dodges better. To get that to work, we had to do two changes. First, I'm going to go to the second one because it's a little bit more complicated, but basically the maximum charge time for jab is now 1000 ms, up from 800. This might seem like a nerf, but in actuality, if we wanted it to really correctly track opponents that are early dodging, we needed to have that timing there. So you're going to charge for a little bit longer, but to compensate on top of this, the minimum charge is now 300 instead of 4, which means that in a lot of situations, people are going to have to dodge jab a little bit more on read than on reaction because you can have a little bit less time to react to it. And then them dodging earlier means that the full charge they're going to have is going to be a lot more likely to hit them. So I know there was a lot of discussion about this.
I mean, I can just roll.
We had done a lot of changes to help it, but it was still situations where it wasn't working.
Unless he jabs me in the face
with this, it should
immediately.
be working properly in most situations. So it's really going to help in those really weird edge cases that happen a bit more often.
Delete button charging.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, next up, Gladiator. I know a lot of people have been asking for this, and we've actually brought it back. So Fushina Ictus, which is toe stab, we've brought back the fact that it unbalances opponents that are out of stamina, and we brought back the old animation where you hit them in the toes, punch them in the face.
So good.
Yeah, I know people were really sad when we removed it, and we kind of had to remove it when we did that rework, because otherwise it created situations where Gladiator was way too strong and somebody was out of stamina. You can do I don't remember how much, but an incredibly high amount of damage. But now that we've actually patched in and changed the way that stamina gets back to full whenever you get up, it means that whenever you land a Fushina Ictus and your opponent falls down, they're going to get back up to full stamina, and you're not going to be able to go back.
I still don't like the fact that he can do it.
Again. So that should be quite a difference.
I guess that helps Gladiator.
Kyoshin, Tengokaze, which is
Kyoshin.
a down stance heavy, like the full block stance heavy, now costs 12 stamina instead of 20. We wanted to make sure that Kyoshin had a bit more options that were more stamina effective, stamina efficient rather, to be able to open up opponents. So that's a big change here. 8 stamina doesn't seem like much, but it's actually a big deal in a lot of situations.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So good. Yeah. Zanhu, so a bit of a nerf to the character's heavy finisher's damage. They now deal 28 instead of 32. So first of all, 32 was too high, regardless, right? And then we picked 28 and we went down to that level because Zanhu has a feat called Winner's Advantage, and we don't want to nerf Winner's Advantage and remove a lot of effectiveness from it, but it causes your next attack to deal a lot of damage, which meant that Zanhu, after pretty much every single hit, could deal something close to 38 damage. So by reducing the damage of his heavy finisher's baseline, we also lower the damage that Winner's Advantage ends up giving for Zanhu. It still goes above 30, but it doesn't go massively above 30.
So that's why you feel like you're dying when fighting
that's a
Zanhu.
little bit lower, should help out a lot in those situations. And last but not least, for Shinobi, the dodge kicks now pin for 800 ms instead of 1100. That should help. That should help a lot of gang situations. Because Shinobi was able to use the dodge kicks, pin opponents with them, get their opponents to be in that pin reaction for a long period of time, get a guaranteed heavy from an ally. You barely had to time it. It was pretty easy to do. With this, you need to be able to throw that heavy quicker, earlier, a bit more on read almost. So it's a lot harder. It should be harder to set up these ganks. But the attack is still guaranteed afterwards, for Shinobi. So it shouldn't impact the hero in 1v1 situations, but in gank situations, it should make a big difference. And on top of that, Shadow Strike, which is the light attack that's guaranteed after a parry, now deals 14 damage instead of 18. And we made that change because that attack leads to a really potent mix-up for Shinobi. And so it gave Shinobi a bit too much damage, a bit too much pressure whenever he was landing even a heavy parry, right? So it dealt too much damage baseline, and then on top of that was giving a really good mix-up. So we lowered it down to a more normal level of damage for a heavy parry punish rather, and you get like more standard damage.
Yeah, I'm excited for him to not basically be like just a ham slapping samurai nail gun anymore. Just like, it was out of control.
Yeah,
That needed to change there, so that was
Good.
pretty good. Okay, so we have other improvements. So yeah, we have the FOV slider, which is now available on console. So
Woo!
really, really good. It's a great improvement.
I do not
So we're
care.
gonna show you like two different things. What it looks like. This is the default field of view, right? So this is what it looks like when you normally.
And
play
when
on
you're at
console.
90 or
You
some
can't
shit.
change it. On PC you can.
Yeah.
But on console you absolutely cannot. You could not change it, but we made it so you can be changed.
Good.
So we could go to the next slide and see this is what it's at its largest setting. So you see that the difference is the camera's a bit more pulled back. You see
Yeah,
wider,
it's still ass.
more of the character's legs and stuff. So it really helps in a lot of situations.
That is still
Doesn't have
ass.
any
I'm
impact
sorry,
on,
but it is.
on frame rate or whatever. So that's pretty good, and it really helps you play in a lot of situations to see like a lot wider. So that's really really good in my opinion. There.
Hats off to the team for like
It is
just the
still
optimizations they had
ass.
over the
It
lifetime
is
of the
still
game. 'Cause, I know back in
ass.
the day, this used to wreck consoles, and now like it's no problem.
Yeah,
so,
we're good.
Huzzah!
Awesome, great job
Excelsior.
there. Yeah. Okay, another thing we're doing in this patch is we're improving some things about executions.
Okay.
If you knew, or maybe you didn't know, so I'll explain it to you, right?
No longer
Is that
forces
some executions, not all of them, mostly the newer ones we've been doing. Some of them from the early heroes didn't really have that issue, but a lot of executions would force you to go out of lock when the end, either if you got hit or at the end of the execution, they'd force you to go out of lock. Created a lot of situations where opponents could come in and get multiple hits on you because you were out of luck, and you get different hit reaction when you're out of luck, and then it was hard to get to get by that. So we've removed that completely. So no execution should ever force you to go out of luck
Nice.
when the end. That was a big undertaking. We had to go into every single execution that we have in the game. We had
Oh
Ben,
wow,
some of
that's
you
a
probably
lot.
know, go into all of them and like do a lot of changes there. So like kudos to him. It was a lot of work there. And a lot of work on the tech team as well to make sure that we had like tools to really test that out. And the other thing is that some executions also forced a specific stance when they ended. So it would force you to go like top, left, or right, and it would really force it. That's also been removed, so you always stay in the stance you were in if you keep locked in when you perform an execution. So again, that's a lot of like quality of life improvements there, but it's very important so that your executions are actually safer and you don't get really heavily punished for performing an execution.
Yeah, you can use them all. Use anyone you want now.
Yeah. All right. And then,
No. I hope they make
super
changes
happy
to
say
him.
The Valkyrie and Tiandi reworks are now live. So super.
I
cool.
hope they
We're
make
really
changes
happy. The
to
testing grounds went
Tiandi.
well. We got a lot of feedback on both heroes, so we're super hyped. So Valkyrie stayed relatively the same. Like most of the things are unchanged. We know that the hero, like a lot of the feedback we've gotten for Valkyrie was that the hero felt maybe like a little bit different, a little bit odd to play, but then a lot of people also mentioned that once you do get into the groove and you get to understand the character, she works way better. And it's actually interesting. It's a new mix-up that we've put in. So we've decided to keep her mostly as is. There's some improvements you can see in the patch notes. You'll see like the changes that we've made from the current, like from the previous live Valkyrie to the new live Valkyrie. We're not gonna go into details because it's too much stuff there. It's gonna take like we all have other things to do. I'd love to be here for 6 hours, but I think people would kill me. So that's it for Valkyrie. But for Tiandi, I have a couple of notes so we can go. So for Tiandi, the hero
Reverted
also,
Dragon Dots
people really
changes.
there was a lot of stuff
Yes!
that was appreciated.
Fuck you,
good
Tiandi!
stuff, but there was also some more negative feedbacks that we've addressed. So first off, we've reverted the Dragon Dodge changes. So that means that in the testing grounds, we had tried to speed up the side dodge heavies a little bit so that they could be more effectively used as dodge attacks and not necessarily as repositioning tools. But as it turns out, a lot of players actually gave us feedback that felt bad. The soft feints from it were hard to do, and players were mostly using it to reposition, and they really missed that functionality. So we heard you, we listened. It's back to how it was. So great job there. I think like this is why we do testing grounds, right? Sometimes there's feedbacks about things that people don't like.
Good.
And we're like, well, okay, it's reasonable, so we're gonna put it back. What this means is for Tiandi, if you want to be able to do like more reliable side dodge attacks, you have to do tiger dodges, but you have to delay them a little bit, which was still possible beforehand. So if you were doing it before, you can still do it now. It won't be a problem. We've also reverted the dragon kick soft feint to dodge removal, right? So by that I mean right now on the live TND, if you do a dragon kick, you can soft feint the dragon kick into a dodge, and you can go into like tiger dodges or whatever you wanted to do. And so we had removed that in the testing grounds because our feeling was you could feint dragon kick, so you no longer needed that soft feint. But again, a lot of players were like, "Well, no, actually, we really like to have that soft feint."
Yeah.
So we kept it. To be fair, dragon dodge can still be hard feinted, and it might be better in some cases to hard feint because then you can get parries off of people that dodge attacking. So that might even be better. But if you want to soft feint to a dodge and go into tiger dodge or into whatever you like to do, you totally can now. So again, that was reverted. You can get into what you wanted to do, so that's good.
Have
Okay.
all the options.
Right, yeah. And then finally, we had changed the delay timing to top dragon dodge. So you could do it only a little bit later into the dodge. And that was because we didn't want to get into situations where you would do dragon kick into top dragon dodge and then repeat over and over and over again and get that kind of vortex feeling. We really wanted to encourage players to use the new follow-up we've done for a dragon kick. But at the end of the day, this had a really big negative impact on the safety of some attacks. People like to do like a palm strike into a top heavy before the rework that had armor. And so with this, you can actually do palm front dodge, dragon dodge, and get armor back earlier to be able to trade with different things, right? So that was a bit of a puzzle there to get that going into where exactly things needed to fit. But this means that sometimes after a dragon kick, you can land a dragon dodge if somebody hit a wall or whatever. But in most cases, you shouldn't be able to. We did a couple of other tweaks. So I would say go look at the patch notes, look at what we've done, and you can test it out and see for yourself. But we really have a good feeling on TND and Valkyrie both. I think they're a lot more viable. They're a lot more fun to play.
Good.
They're super interesting characters.
Expect more Valkyrie then.
They both feel a lot better.
Yeah, so it's amazing, right? And so
I'm getting used to the
kudos
camera
team. I know
being over
everybody
there.
worked super hard on this, and I want to thank the community. Like a lot of players gave us a lot of good feedback on this. Exactly the kind of feedback we'd like to see. And even in the case of Valkyrie, when it's I'm not sure, I prefer the old Valkyrie or whatever, but then that's why those testing rounds run for a week, and then people can give like more feedback and go, well, actually,
Good.
it feels.
I hope
different,
Yorm's is
but
for a
in
week
good
as
way,
well,
not in a
so
bad way. So we really pushed for this. And
so
I think
people
we
can
have
actually give
the best
feedback
iteration
on
of Valkyrie
Yorm,
we've
because
ever had,
Yorm
so
needs
I'm
this,
super hyped about that.
and you better
And
give
it
it.
just underscores like the importance.
I'm
of
looking at you,
testing
bastards.
grounds and the feedback that we get from that, and players being like really honestly specific with their feedback. Because general feedback of like, I don't like it is fine, but it really helps us when you're like, oh well, I really liked XYZ, but ABC I didn't like. Then we can really hone in and fine tune, and that's where we see stuff like reverting the TND dragon kick stuff.
Yep.
Or dragon dodge stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's great. I'm really happy. So keep it up. We have more TG stuff coming later in the show. So
What's
again,
next?
Can't wait to get people's opinions and feedback on that as well.